You're tuning in to Stellar Cycles, hosted by Alina Souza
and Eva Brown. Join us weekly as we delve into the science, spirituality, and cultural significance of our feminine cycles.
Get ready to align with your natural rhythms, take charge of your patterns, and embrace a holistic approach to feminine wellness. Are all systems go?
All systems go.
Hey guys, and welcome to episode 17. This one is titled Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, because we really want to talk about how it really does feel like we're from two different planets.
Because we are. In every way. I like us being different.
That's how it's meant to be. And that's why today's main topic is how noting the differences between men and women can actually lead us to have better relationships and work together in the way that we're designed to.
In harmony.
So in this episode, we'll discuss everything from biological distinctions, such as hormonal differences and nutritional needs, to the cultural constructs of masculine and feminine energy. We'll also explore the societal expectations that continue to shape our behaviors and attitudes, even as we push for more equality and less stereotyping. Although our world is constantly on the quest of becoming more and more modern, we can see that the differences between male and female have been biologically ingrained since the beginning of time, and they've also shaped cultures and civilizations as a result. I know, it's like, are we narrating a documentary?
That's hilarious, but the truth is going to come out today.
Yeah, and once we are more aware of these principles, we can better use them in our lives to achieve the lifestyle and relationships we aim for. What kind of updates do you have?
I've had a really busy month. I've been traveling a lot. Was just in LA recently for a photo shoot with Riemann. That was such a great experience, and I am absolutely blessed to have friends that are so accomplished, and it's just really cool to know people that are thriving in that way. So she asked if I wanted to be a part of this photo shoot, and also asked if I knew any friends, and I felt so blessed to be able to offer that to people.
Just as a reminder, is that Korean skincare line that we've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
Eva's been on this stuff since March, I think.
And the best face cream I've ever tried, if you guys don't know me, I'm just so bougie about my skincare. I try the best of everything. And I fell in love with this face cream. Nothing's made my face more dewy and glowy. It literally reminds me of the La Mer face cream, but better and not even a fraction of the cost. So they did this photo shoot. Jasmine came, and you guys know Jasmine. She helps us out with some of our content on social media, and the photographer ended up being the personal photographer for Rihanna, and he has a book of his portfolio of all the pictures he's taken of her at her wedding and for red carpet event. He's such a good photographer. Your face, Joyous. I am here for it. Wow. Oh, great. So this is a good story. Thumbs up. So cool. So you could imagine me, a grateful little butterfly. I'm like, oh my God, this is just so many things are aligning. I just was in shock. Because you guys know me, I appreciate people that take their craft so seriously and that they are so passionate. And, Rihanna's that way, right? I have so much respect for her business. So I know whoever she chose to work with was going to be a vibe, And watching this photographer on his stage, he led everyone. He had this entire team, and he would lead, of course, the models and tell us what to do. And he knew how to get us to relax our faces, or how to change direction, or put us in a mood to portray the emotion that he needed to catch. I just really appreciated seeing him work. And the photo shoots came out great. I love myself here for going and knowing that these pictures meant a lot to them. And it's how do I give them my best self here? How do I, even though I knew in a lot of the pictures I was going to look silly and stupid, for sure, girls. I was looking over, and you know how we all have the ugly face? It was a lot of ugly faces, but I know that they got the ones that they needed, and I just put in the most effort that I possibly could, and they appreciated it, and that was great. The other cool thing I did was I went to this place called Breathe Degrees in Carlsbad. They have breathwork classes hosted by the owner. His name is Tyler. It's a 75-minute session where he's leading you through these intense breath cycles. The benefits are insane. You guys guys can YouTube it yourself or go to his class, even better. He explains it so well, and it's really cool to see how far out he can get his diaphragm, and that the secret is super far out. And then he says that Buddha wasn't fat, he just had a big diaphragm. And
from all the breathing?
Yes, because before he says that our longevity of life is determined by how much breath we can hold inside of our diaphragm. The more air we can contain, the better our body heals. You know, breath is everything. So I was like, damn, that's really cool. Like, Buddha just had a really big life in a diaphragm. Didn't get to have that experience. They were all booked up. So if you are going to go, make sure you book it well in advance. We were on the wait list and everyone showed up. We ended up, though, sitting in their sauna, which has infrared and red light therapy. Did that for 20 minutes. You start sweating immediately. And then we went into their cold plunge and jacuzzi room, where we sat in the cold plunge for 4 minutes. Best feeling ever. This is something, as you guys know, I take cold showers. I love doing cold plunges. This is a cool social setting you could do it in. Did that like 2 times, went home. But anyways, that was a really cool thing. You guys should definitely check it out.
My updates: a few weeks ago, we went to Chicago for Sam's exam. Had a lovely time. It was just there for the weekend. Honestly, we just went out to eat and kind of explored the city a little bit. Sunday, we literally walked the whole entire downtown and the Navy Pier and everything. So Chicago was really neat. Yeah, we really liked it. And then that following week, the post-eclipse energy really had me questioning my self-worth. Like, I, thought I just sailed through the eclipse, was like totally unaffected, wasn't feeling emotional about anything. But then that following week, I was like, and of course it helped that it was my luteal week, the final
double trouble,
the final run. Yeah. Oh man, I was like, is this ever gonna get better? And then of course it did.
The sun came.
Yeah.
Not in San Diego, but in your life.
That's one of the things. But other than that, Mother's Day was really good. We went to the aquarium with Sam's mom and dad and grandma, and saw a whole bunch of cute little fishies.
Oh, the little baby.
Yeah. Saw the fish in California.
Fishy face? Let me see your fishy face.
My best fishy face. But yeah, very much over the San Diego weather. I know you're feeling it too.
We all are.
It's been very gloomy for a good long time now, and we are just ready to see some summer.
They call it June gloom, but
May gray.
May gray. These months. We gotta go to Miami.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, yeah, Miami. Let's just launch into our topic for today.
Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, book by John Gray.
And the book is more about like communication and behavior, because he's like a marriage counselor. So, he helps a lot of people figure it out.
Psychology and communication are huge. If there's 2 things that you can work on that would improve your life dramatically, it's these 2 things.
Yeah.
People are everything.
But as always, we love to remind our listeners about the hormonal aspect of things. And
yes, we got you.
So
we're going to tie it back home, and we're going to make it all about us ladies, because it's our time to shine now. We've been repressed for far too long. So anyways, the hormonal differences between men and women, I'll go over the women part. We have approximately a 28-day cycle. In that 28 days, you have 4 stages. You have the menstrual, the follicular, ovulatory, and the luteal, each operating in their own time frame. So menstrual might be 3 to 7 days. Follicular is like 2 weeks. Ovulatory is like 1 to 3 days, really. Luteal, is that also 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's like 4
because they overlap with each other.
Days sometimes, yeah.
To paint the full picture, you're seeing this and you know that they're overlapping with each other too. And that's why sometimes the food suggestions or physical activities can kind of overlap with each other within these phases, because you're really just listening to your body and just how the seasons transition from spring to summer. There's that overlapping period where the fall leaves turn yellow to orange to falling off the tree. So you have like those mini phases. The various hormones that are at play in each phase, they differ. So you have your FSH, which is your follicular stimulating hormone. I'm so proud of myself.
Good job, Eva. That was really good.
Yes, I'm really killing it today. I must be in my ovulatory phase. So, and then you have your luteinizing hormone. It was getting too good. I had to
Ovulatory
mess
phase
up.
helps you read and talk.
Yes. All neurons are firing off at the same time. So your LH, and then estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and prolactin. Women typically cycle in this way for 30 to 40 years of their life, as you know. What's really cute is we're really tied to the moon. The moon has a 28-day cycle as well, and it has 4 phases. So what we always love to talk about is tying in how everything in this world's connected, even our bodies. God has given us signs within not only the world and the seasons and in the stars and the days and everything, but it ties into our bodies. We always talk about how our food, depending on what chakra you're working in or what phase you're in too, you would eat a certain type of food. That's that color. Everything's just super connected. So anyways, that's my spiel for the women. And now we're going to move into the men.
We don't really go into male hormones that much on this podcast, but we will today because there is quite a difference. Men do also experience fluctuations in their hormones, although not on a monthly cycle like us. They experience them more on a daily basis, like a 24-hour cycle. They only have 2 fluctuations, which is testosterone and cortisol, and both work in the same way where they spike in the morning and then they gradually decrease throughout the day.
Like in health magazines, it says like right in the mornings when your cortisol levels are the highest. I'm sure that's still true for women too, right?
Yeah, and men also do have LH, which is luteinizing hormone, because that's what their brain sends out to help with the testosterone production. So in order to produce testosterone, the LH has to work for them too. Also, men's fluctuations are much less drastic than a typical woman's monthly fluctuations, so they don't make as big of an impact on mood or behavior like it does for us girls. They just have it easier.
They're stable. So seeing the differences between men and women and really understanding that even on a hormonal foundation, a man's hormones are more steady, consistent, stable, which allow them to perform the same way each day, which is really what it takes to build a house, to build a community. This way that a man naturally works, even before society was built, back in the caveman days, this is his rhythm. Work is typically set up around a man's hormonal schedule, which is every week looks the same for them. Every day is the same. They also eat in the same rhythm. But us women really need to understand that our hormones and how we operate are different. So it is important for us to listen to ourselves. When we talk about how we're different, we have the 4 phases, and each phase helps us go deeper into things that are needed. A guy might not necessarily be able to go that far, that quickly as a woman can. So when you're in each phase, you might be going deeper into reflection when you're in your menstrual phase. And then in your luteal phase, maybe you're focusing more on your intuition because you don't have as much energy. So you really need help from what's around you. And then in your ovulatory phase, that's definitely when you're going to be leaning into socializing. And even though maybe you can't be so great and on point every single day of the month, like maybe a man can, when you are at certain phases, you are maximizing those phases times 10. And over a period of time, those compound and create a very stable, balanced life for you. But the bigger things here too are these phases, it's really teaching you to lean in on community. You have to ask for support during those lower phases, like when you're in your luteal phase, sharing with your friend, hey, I'm kind of grumpy today, or I have a lot going on and don't have energy. Because that sharing and that vulnerability is what keeps us close in a community. A community wouldn't survive without those things. Those things are not possible unless there's a man. I'm trying not to put gender on it, guys, but you can put whoever, but there needs to be a person and energy that is protecting, providing, is stable in order to hold up the community. Women's hormones help us tap into deeper bonds, creating wisdom within ourselves, our intuition, prayer. I think in this episode, what would be important for me selfishly is I really want to express to people how these 2 entities are so important and they're both equal. They're different, but we don't need to change one or the other, but just accept us for where we're at so we can elevate, you know? What can we expect to see within our body and the type of food that we need?
Well, first first off, men and women are going to have differences when it comes to body and nutrition because they have differences in body size, composition, and physiological processes such as menstruation, pregnancy, and lactation. To start off with, calories, men typically require more calories per day than women. So about 500 more calories on a daily basis than the typical women's diet. So
especially a really big guy would need probably a lot, carrying on all that body weight.
Men are going to need more protein when it comes to supporting their muscle mass. And of course, pregnant and breastfeeding women also need to up their protein because they're forming a whole entire little human.
Wow. Yeah. I would be interested. I can't wait till like when we're really, really big and we'll have episodes about like pregnancy and breastfeeding, like what to do during these moments. But help us out, guys. Leave a review, share with your friends. One day we'll bring you more. When it comes to iron, menstruating women need more than, let's say, someone who is not menstruating or a man. To be exact, they need 18 milligrams in a day. And then a guy or a non-menstruating woman would need 8 milligrams. So it's a 10 milligram difference to replace that blood that you're losing during the month.
It's kind of hardcore.
It's a big difference. Fiber, men need slightly more because of the higher daily caloric intake. Fiber is also really helpful for women who are diagnosed with estrogen dominance.
Because it's going to help flush it out of the body.
Yeah.
If you have too much of it.
We love fiber.
And we always hear about folic acid and how important it is for women of reproductive age. They need very adequate amounts of folic acid to help support the development of a fetus and help avoid neural tube defects, which can happen in the development of a baby's nervous system. There's not enough folic acid.
Nutrition is everything. Like, everyone needs to know this information.
Vitamins and minerals. On the general side, women need more, of course, because also in blood loss, we lose a lot of our minerals.
We're giving a lot to the baby, right?
Yes, especially in pregnancy too, like you're saying. So women need more vitamins and minerals. And then alcohol, men are just able to metabolize it much better than women due to their higher proportion of body water.
I thought that was so interesting.
Water. Yeah. I don't know,
the water in their body. Body intake, body water sounds good to me.
So they it takes a lot longer for them to feel it, so they're just able to probably metabolize it better.
So both of these were really interesting to me because girlies are typically the ones that are so into vitamins, what I've noticed. Men, not so much.
No.
It's just so interesting that intuitively we're already drawn to the things that we actually need.
Exactly.
Wild. And the alcohol tripped me out because, guys can handle their alcohol and metabolize it more. If I drink, I break out no matter what. If they do, they can be fine most of the times.
That's crazy.
It's just so interesting how we're set up. And I think it's like that because, this is my theory, guys, that because we need to be more intuitive and more connected and guided, we can't be inebriated like that. God needs us tapped in, tuned on. So anyways, meal frequency and amount. Men can go longer periods of time without eating and eat more during one seating. And women need to eat more frequently, but they do better with smaller meals during the day, which is exactly how we eat.
So as far as how people and cultures evolved and their way of living, it seems that men would spend, even up until 100 years ago, they would spend most of the day away from home, away from there was food. There wasn't fast food everywhere back then. So they've developed to be able to go a lot longer in between meals than women have. So intermittent fasting works wonders for a lot of people, but it's also not necessarily the way that all women should live their life because we are designed to have smaller, more frequent meals.
Totally. And that's why we always say, as a woman, try out multiple things and different diets or whatever's out there and see what works for you. Moving into something a little bit less obvious for physical differences is cellulite. It's actually visible on women because our fascia creates a mesh underneath the skin, and that mesh, as it pulls, it creates dimples. So even if you notice, we all have cellulite, and if you stand on the leg, it might be more apparent because that mesh is under there pulling. Men's is not like this at all. It actually runs parallel and it doesn't create any dimples.
Wow.
And interesting. I've researched this. No one knows why it is. Maybe we'll make a theory and get a Nobel Prize for it.
Hopefully more answers are to emerge about this soon.
Yeah. So feminine, masculine energies.
Feminine energy, it's more inward focused, creative, receptive, more oriented towards relationships as well as caring for others. So that's mostly what women are all about.
Yeah.
Qualities include things such as empathy, intuition, nurturing, cooperations, patience, and sensitivity. And when it comes to making decisions, feminine energy is often associated with considering and feeling feelings, emotions, and also being considerate of the interconnected relationships that are part of the situation. And of course, the moon represents feminine energy. It's the more yin side of the balance of the two in the world, and it's darker, more inward focused.
I wanted to jump in here to give a preface to feminine and masculine energy before we dive into it completely. Just to remind you guys that feminine masculine energy is something that's in all of us. It doesn't identify necessarily with gender. I know earlier we were talking about hormones, and that did identify with gender. Now we're talking about feminine masculine energies. This identifies with, I guess actually the word would be sex, not gender. So
we're not big enough to get canceled over that kind of stuff. Yes.
Oh, don't cancel us, guys. And then feminine masculine energy, of course, by nature, we're naturally more feminine. It's harder for a guy to be feminine because the qualities you need are like creating, making things beautiful, going slow, taking your time. If you guys saw a guy out there putting on like a dress and like floating around, you'd be like, oh, he's cute, but like, he's not a man, So, but also still guys have feminine energy and, vice versa. And it's important that we have both. So as we talk about this, I just want you guys to keep that in your mind.
You gotta have at least a little bit just to understand your partner who has a lot more of that energy. But if you have a little bit of it, then you can at least empathize with them and really be able to put yourself in their shoes. Masculine energy, it's the complete opposite, really. So it's more outward focused, active, oriented towards problem solving and accomplishment. It's more focused on things and objective. So qualities include assertiveness, ambition, competitiveness, independence, and rationality. Of course, that logic always. With decision making, masculine energy cares about logic, action, and consideration of individual rights or rules. So like more me focused.
Yes.
The luminary that represents more of the yang, which is masculine energy, is the sun. It's very bright. It's very predictable.
Yes. Energy giving.
It's on a 24-hour cycle.
Yeah, 24 hours.
Yeah, so that's the masculine energy.
The one thing I wanted to say with masculine energy and individual rights and being more focused on self, here's another way that I know it to be. Masculine energy is more actually focused on giving to others, building community, pouring into outward. Feminine energy is actually more focused on self-contained, self-validated. And this also applies in dating too, and attracting energy. But I wanted to summarize this a little bit more and put some other things side by side. Masculine energy is doing, where feminine is being. So masculine is taking action, it's proving its worth, it's working hard, it's creating something. Whereas feminine shows us the importance of trusting, letting go, and letting things come to you. Really just feeling completely worthy and being, not feeling like you have to do something. I think that's how you would figure out the two. Like if you're sitting in your energy and you're like, what do I do now? What's next? What am I not doing? You're in masculine, and it's just good for you guys to be aware, because being in one energy for too long is not healthy to our bodies, because feminine energy is very healing. You can tell like being around a woman feels more healing than a man's energy. Me sitting with my girlfriends and hugging my girlfriend just feels a lot more healing and nurturing than what a man can give you. Unless like if that's your man, that's obviously he's going to give you that protecting, that healing energy, which helps you radiate more healing. But like a random guy that's like not in his masculine, I consider married men in their pure masculine energy, because that's when they're completely providing and supporting and taking care of one thing, and from that they're creating a community, right? Their family. Anyways, some of the differences: masculine is creative and building, feminine is is for relaxing and enjoying your energy. Feminine is going slow, stillness, you're in flow with your movement, and that's receiving energy. And in Chinese medicine, you would transmute this energy. Whatever someone gives you, you transform it into its highest form, you know?
Kind of how you take a sperm and make a baby.
Exactly. And the sperm is the one that does
But that's just
all of
one
the action.
example of like what women can transmute.
Exactly. It's the bee and the pollen, you know? All of it's so connected. I wanted to tie in as well the law of polarity here. Law of polarity states that everything in the world has an equal and opposite counterpart. So it's important to know that with masculine and feminine energy, it exists in all of us, inside of me, but also in the world it takes place. A great example is the world is typically always balanced more or less with men and women. That's gnarly to me that just happens by nature. And that's the law of polarity. So knowing these energies and how to work with them is really crucial in life, because in one room you can only have so much masculine and so much feminine. So, you as a woman, if you want to have a masculine man, then you also have to really embody and embrace the feminine traits. And as a world, we need to start embracing feminine traits and applauding them, and not looking down on them. If this is something you guys want to know more about, Alina and I are going to host a webinar in the near future, and we'll be making a pre-registration page to send out to you guys. If that's something that you're into, I would suggest downloading the free grocery guide because if you put your email in there, then we will have it and we'll automatically register you in on this webinar that we'll host. Speaking of communicating with you guys, let's jump into communication differences between men and women. We're learning.
I've definitely been reading that book by Mr. John Gray, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. He talks about several different components, first of them being problem solving versus empathy. Gray suggests that when faced with a problem, men tend to retreat and silently think about a solution, while women typically prefer to express their feelings and want to talk about the problem. Men often interpret this as a request for advice or help solving the problem, while women are usually just seeking empathy and understanding. They just really want to be able to tell their man what's going on and for him to just be like, wow, that really sucks.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what we want. I feel like they want, if a guy confides a problem with his guy friend, he wants help solving the problem too,
right.
No? Like we look for validation for sure. Or just like the girl I got you or whatever. Men speak to solve a problem and women seek to feel validated. It's something I read in a book a long time ago.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So then moving on to number 2, advice versus understanding. That one helped us flow into this one. So according to Gray, men are very solution oriented. They tend to offer advice when presented with what seemed to be a problem. If a woman's complaining about something, it's got to be a problem, right? While on the other hand, women often seek to just share and discuss their feelings about the issue at hand, seeking understanding and validation rather than a direct solution. And I know this to be true because whenever we talk about things, we just want to have somebody understand how we feel about the thing. Not necessarily like, oh, we're going to come up with a plan and there's a strategy. No, it's just like you just want to get it out, see how someone else reacts to what you're feeling and going through.
Because it feels so good, honestly. Like just when you can vibe with your girlfriend and she's like, yeah, boo. I'm like, yeah, you get it. She's like, yeah, I get it. It shifts the energy. It changes my entire mood,
Exactly.
Sometimes I've already solved the problem, I know what I'm going to do. I just kind of want a soundboard.
Then moving on to silence versus talking. So the book suggests that men often require periods of silence or withdrawal to deal with stress, which can drive a lot of girls crazy because they really want to rip into the problem and try to make it better because the sooner you talk about it, the sooner you can figure it out. But it's the exact opposite for guys. They need time apart from the thing. It can be kind of hard to wait for them to speak on it at their own time, but it's really the best thing you can do. And then women typically cope with stress, again, by talking about their feelings or their concerns. I know when I've felt the most intensely about something, I have to talk to somebody. I like the last thing I'd want to do is lock myself away and not talk about it with anybody.
I'm so mad. As we all know, I have really refined my masculine energy for the first half of my life. And I am so much more like a guy. All my friends know this too. I would rather just sit with it by myself, process it. Sometimes I won't even share it. If I do, it's already been handled by that time. Yeah. I've also noticed all of my boyfriends were like that too. And I kind of grew to appreciate that. I'm like, yeah, you go handle that. You don't need to share it with me if you don't want.
Yeah, and you can definitely see this in girls and guys, which energy is going to be more pronounced in them, and it's not the same for everyone.
Good point.
And then literal versus nuanced communication. I think this trips a lot of people up, whether it's in friendships or family or relationships. Gray states that men usually communicate in a more straightforward, literal manner and prefer to discuss one topic at a time, whereas women often communicate in a more nuanced way, expressing multiple thoughts and emotions at once. And that's why sometimes we can be really, really good at saying something that we think is flying under the radar, but really has a lot of intention and meaning behind it, and it can set someone off, especially if it's a guy, you know, and then he says something like really straightforward, and it's like, you know,
because we say like 3 more sentences than a guy does, you know, and those like average. 2 out of 3 are risky. Sometimes I say things where I'm like, I didn't even need to say that. I didn't even mean that.
And then finally, self-esteem and autonomy versus relationship and connection. So men are raised based on the expectations we're going to go over in a few minutes here. So men often define their sense of self through their ability to achieve results and accomplish goals on their own. That's
masculine
why masculine energy. They hate having to ask for help, which is that's going to be that's going to be their last resort. And it's usually if a man is asking another man for help, then that's a sign of great respect, because you're not about to show that you're weak or you don't know how to do something.
Which is why we need a balance, not only masculine, but you need to have feminine. The best men are the ones that have both. They know when to ask for help. Why would you struggle, you know?
Yeah.
Unnecessarily.
Like stupid.
Like, boo, I'm glad you can do it. I know, like, but use the energy to go achieve something bigger than this. Like, why are you getting hung up on something so silly? Get that done. Have your help. And then no CEO, no guy that's building a house is doing it on his own. He hires subcontractors and employees to help.
Totally. Men are definitely a lot more autonomy centered, while women often define their self-esteem through their feelings and also the quality of their relationships, which represents the amount of connection that they're getting in their lives. That's how a woman is going to rate her life, is like, how does she feel and how does her life look? How's it for you?
I definitely get mine from both, as you know, from both.
For sure, of course.
And I'd say now, even recently, you talking about how we get our feelings from the connections we make. Now in the past 3 years, I feel like I do actually have a big sense of satisfaction from that. I always felt really blessed to have people in my life, but now I like really lean more into my femininity of wanting community, asking for help, and having high quality people around me. That for me is even over the business side now. Oh, yay, my life is changing. I love that for me.
Yeah, totally. So these are all just really good examples of the major differences when it comes to communication and behavior and expectations between men and women in relationships. And when we become aware of these differences, the communication becomes much better when we really know and think about what our partner needs.
Yeah, totally.
And then moving on to societal expectations. So societal expectations play quite a huge role because they do present a pressure for both men and women that
they do
either steer you towards doing better in your life or kind of steer you towards giving up and being like, oh, well, you know, I can't really do that. Expectations of men include independence and self-reliance, emotional control, strength and toughness, dominance and leadership, and financial provision. Men are often expected to be independent and self-reliant. They're often encouraged to stand on their own, make decisions, and provide for themselves and their families, because that's what should make a man someone who can stand up for what they believe in.
And if they can't do that, they literally don't. They're not as happy.
And they're someone's dependent.
They are. But even if they're, absolutely. The worst. Oh my goodness. Yes, absolutely. Like, y'all are a baby still. You're a baby. True. And also, even if they are, let's say, living on their own or whatever, but if they're not providing for their family, yes, everyone is different. But what I've noticed is as a whole, right, and I'm taking account of, y'all know I have thousands of friends and I know them very deeply. Most men, even, they're lonely if they're not with someone. They're not building a future for themselves. It's in their DNA to protect, provide, and to build something with the human that's bigger than themselves. So we're literally not doing these men favors if we accept them at this, if they're not a grown man yet.
Moving on to emotional control. As we know, many societies encourage men to suppress their emotions, except for anger, and any expressions of vulnerability, sadness, or fear are often stigmatized. Society just doesn't like to see men as emotional creatures. Strength and toughness. Men are often expected to be physically strong and tough and to enjoy competitive sports and activities. Dominance and leadership. Men are very often expected to take on leadership roles in various settings and to be assertive or dominant. Finally, despite changes in gender roles, women are able to make more money now. Men are still often expected to be the primary breadwinner in their families. As it should be, I think.
Oh my God, I agree for so many reasons. First off, childbearing is a whole thing, and giving your entire body and making those sacrifices to raise a healthy child is a lot. And if you're giving birth, a man needs to focus on the household and supporting it so a woman can be nurturing. And also, I just read this article that women take on more of the emotional burden because of the lack of emotional education that men have received. And the emotional burden on a relationship is just as hard and taxing as literal work. And because of that, women do actually, you know how people are like, oh, like there's no way a woman could do it all. You know, she can't have a baby, raise the baby, and make money, and shave our legs, and do our makeup. That's crazy.
It's a lot.
So speaking of women, expectations of us underneath the nurturing and caregiving, we're really expected to be more empathetic and putting people's needs and desires even above our own. Women are now overcoming people pleasing. It's a big topic amongst my friend group where we're all training ourselves to put ourselves first, have our boundaries, and not put someone else's needs before our own. You guys see this, especially around responsibility for raising children and maintaining the home. Luckily, things are starting to shift. Now men are helping out with the house. They're understanding that how we were living in the 1950s was archaic. Emotional expression. Unlike men, women are often allowed and expected to express a wide range of emotions. However, expressions of anger can be stigmatized for women and really held in a dark light of she is crazy, she's overdramatic. It's really unfortunate that one bad day or emotional outburst can really put you in a certain category. Does that suck? Yes, but you know what? As a woman here for you ladies, let's just rise above and let's get over that stigma. Like, I wouldn't sign up to fight that battle right now, is basically what I'm saying. And let's move on to appearance. Women are often judged more, this one hurts, judged more on physical appearance more than men are. There can be significant societal pressure to conform to traditional standards of beauty. And this one cuts deep because I was just ranting about this to one of my girlfriends and saying that a woman's time is so much more valuable than a guy's, because in our modern society, men over time become more valuable because they grow their income and their wealth. Society respects a wealthy man. Society does not look at a wealthy woman the same way. And in fact, for a woman to become really, really wealthy like that, now, you know me guys, I believe we can have it all. But normally for a woman to have a very wealthy life like that, she probably had to sacrifice her feminine energy and go fully into masculine. And what happens here though is as a woman gets older, her appearance is all that society is really
concerned with.
Yes. Literally your time is actually more valuable because a man's will improve and yours will disintegrate over time. And the things that hold up a woman's value, of course, you guys know we're not shallow people. We're not about the appearance. I'm just telling you guys this is how it is. But what holds up a woman's worth, of course, we know is not appearance. It's who she is as a human, right? Like what type of energy has she tapped into? How nurturing, how giving, how deep does her love go? How graceful is she, right? But that only happens when a woman is deeply loved and cherished nourished by a masculine man, when you build a family and when you have those children, you've built that, then your worth is like untouchable. But I go ham here on this one because I wish someone told me, like no one was telling me this stuff. And now when I look back through life, I start to realize these things and understand that women, we all need to hear a different narrative, to hear a different story. The bill of goods we've been sold that everyone has always been doing and that system we were plugging into, it's not the way that's going to set us up for the best success, you know? Yeah, be a boss babe, be independent, whatever, but you also have to be feminine if you want that life, right? If you want a masculine man, I'm just giving you guys my perspective on life, and this is the journey that I'm on. Hopefully it hits for you. I'm going to move into submissive and compliance now. An expectation that women are held to a lot. In some cultures, women are expected to be docile and not say a word back to their husbands. They can't make choices, and guys, I pray for them every day. You should too. It just breaks my heart. Now you see women on the more free cultures going the other way. Maybe they are really expressing themselves. As society, we're all growing and we're trying out new things. Sometimes in society, we overcorrect. Either a subcategory or culture or gender has been wrong for so long, so then we can overcorrect to try to regain some expressiveness, and it's all good and gravy. That's the cycles of life. These are just things to be aware of. I think when we're talking about expectations of women, we can start to see both sides of things, start to see where you want to fit in, what type of life do you want to create. At the end of the day, we're all multifaceted humans, so you can be as much or as little of any area in your life that you want to be. And the last expectation that women have on them is that they are great at multitasking. And actually, this is incredibly true. How our mind operates is different than a man's. A man has to compartmentalize, where a woman, we can have a discussion with our girlfriends and talk about 5 subjects at one time, do multiple things at one time. This is because we're used to being with the baby in the early stages. A baby cannot go be with the man for the first 2 years and survive. He has to be with the mom, and the mom naturally has those abilities to multitask, where the male counterpart has to be more focused and looking for food, protecting, looking outward throughout the forest, right? And being more aware of hearing sounds for danger, where the woman by design can multitask, be with the kid and cooking the food and da-da-da-da. And by the way, a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about when I go back to caveman days comes from a book called Sapiens, super bomb. Yeah. And with that, let's jump into our call to action.
Yeah, let's wrap this episode up.
But I'm happy I got it out.
You know, we went over the body and physiological differences to the food, nutritional needs, and then things like communication, things like societal expectations. So before I do the call to action, I'm going to remind you one more time, you can download our free grocery guide for eating according to your cycle. So when you go grocery shopping, you can just pull these up and always have it handy whenever you're getting your food for the week or for the phase that you're in. And that link can be found in our show notes.
It's a lifesaver. Guys, seriously, I save it on my phone, and whenever I'm at the restaurant and just looking at what I want to eat, I refer back to it, and it just makes it so easy.
Now, having learned in this episode about the differences that make men and women work together, what will you be more aware of implementing now? Is it giving your partner a space and silence when he needs that to process his thoughts and feelings? Is it understanding that it's normal for women to be hungry more frequently than men? Maybe thinking twice before jumping in to offer him advice he didn't ask for? Maybe feeling better about not being able to sustain the intermittent fasting like some men are able to? Things like honoring your feminine qualities instead of attempting to live life callously and cold. We want to hear about what it is for you, so please share on Instagram what are some ways you amp up your feminine energy and honor your natural rhythm.
Yeah.
Alright guys, we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Bye.
This show is intended for inspiration and entertainment and is not meant to replace your physician's medical advice.
Content by Alina and Eva, produced by Joyous Heron.
You can find more on our Instagram at Stellar Cycles Pod.
Thanks for joining us on this stellar journey. See you next time.